Part 1, The Calling of the Trees. The night before the festival of first harvest, when the moon rose a deep, unsettling crimson, Ebony heard the baobab trees whisper her name. She had slipped away from the noise of the village to clear her mind. For weeks she had sensed something strange, shadows that lingered too long, animals fleeing the groves, dreams filled with swirling roots and muffled cries. But never had she heard the trees speak. She was kneeling by the grinding stone when the wind.
Part 1, The warning. The road into Yumani village was narrower than Amora remembered. Dust rose behind the old bus as it rattled to a stop, coughing smoke like a dying beast. Amora stepped out with her bag slung over her shoulder, pausing to breathe in the heavy scent of earth, palm wine, and distant rain. Everything looked smaller than the memories she'd carried for 12 years. She hadn't planned to return, ever. But the message had arrived suddenly, scribbled in her grandmother's shaky handwriting. Come home immediately, it is about your mother, before the night the ancestors walk. Amora had read those words again and again. Her mother, who had vanished without a trace the last time Yumani witnessed the dreaded phenomenon that came once every generation. Her mother, whose disappearance was spoken of only in whispers. Children were already being herded indoors. Chickens darted on the huts. The air was thick with tension, as though the village itself was holding its breath. A small figure rushed toward her, Ife, a cousin she barely recognized. You came, Ife breathed, grabbing her arm. Good. We feared you would ignore grandmother's call. I didn't ignore it, Amora said. I need answers. Ife's eyes darkened. Then you must prepare yourself. Tonight is the last night of the cycle. The night the ancestors walk. Amora had always thought the legend was superstition, spirits walking among the living, searching for the ones who called to them in dreams. But the fear in Ife's voice wasn't superstition. It was memory, carved deep. Has grandmother told you everything? Ife asked as they hurried toward the compound. No, Amora replied. And that scares me more than anything. They arrived at the family home, a circular mud structure adorned with carved masks that seemed to watch her. Her grandmother, Mama Oji, waited by the doorway. She was smaller, frailier, but her eyes were still sharp. You should not have come, Mama Oji said. Then why did you call? Then why did you call me? Amora shot back, Mama Oji's voice lowered. Because your mother will walk tonight. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. What do you mean? Amora whispered. Mama Oji's face tightened. When the ancestors walk, they come seeking what they left unfinished. Your mother's spirit is not at rest. She will come looking for you. A cold tremor slid down Amora's spine. I don't believe that. It doesn't matter whether you believe, Mama Oji said. Only whether you listen. Ife touched Amora's hand gently. Tonight. Do not open the door. No matter what you hear. But if it's truly my mother, it will not be your mother, Mama Oji said sharply. It will be something wearing her voice. Before Amora could argue, the first drumbeat sounded across the village, slow, deep, ancient. A warning. Mama Oji pushed her inside. Hide your heart tonight, child, she whispered. The dead remember more than the living. And night began to fall. End of part 1.
Odigo of 1,000 Promises. Chapter 1, The Man with the Honey Tongue. Ufil village had its share of hunters, farmers, drummers, and weavers. But none was as famous, or as whispered about, as Odigo, the man whose words were sweeter than the freshest palm wine. Every morning, he strolled through the red earth paths with a confident sway, greeting women with lines that could coax a smile from a stone. O Malika Ada, he'd say to the yam seller, your eyes are brighter than sunrise on Ik market day. I swear, I will build you a stall that will shade you better than any tree. To the widow Ngozi he'd mama, once the harvest comes, I will help you reclaim your husband's farmland. You will lack nothing. To Nena, the blacksmith's daughter, he promised, the New Yam Festival, prepare your wrappers. I will dance with you till the moon sleeps. Each woman held her promise close, believing Odegu saw her differently from the rest, but the elders sat under the Iroko tree shaking their heads. Our son is gathering debts of the heart, they muttered. And when the wind blows, he will pay them all at once. Odegu heard, but he laughed. Life was too sweet to worry. Chapter 2, Cracks in the Calabash. The trouble began quietly, like distant thunder. Ngozi, the widow, heard from a trader that Odegu had promised to help another woman with her farmland. She frowned. Nena learned that Odegu had already claimed the first harvest for someone else. Ada discovered the store she had been promised was promised again, twice. Still, they doubted themselves. Odegu's charm was powerful. They told themselves there must be a misunderstanding, but then came the festival bracelets. For the New Yam festival, Odegu had privately gifted each woman a bracelet made of polished cowries and smooth river stones. He told each one, "This is special. I carved it myself. You are the only one who has this." He didn't know the women would all gather at the same riverside to wash wrappers for the celebration. When Ada rolled up her sleeves, Ngozi gasped, "That bracelet, where did you get it?" "A gift," Ada said with pride. "From Odegu." Nene bent forward. "Gift? But he gave me the same one." Silence spread across the water like oil. Then came the shouting. By the time the women stormed into the village square, the whole community had gathered. Chapter 3, The Storm Breaks. They found Odegu reclining under a palm tree, sharpening his cutlass. The women surrounded him. "Odegu." They chorused. "Explain yourself." He blinked. "My beauties, why are we shouting? Let's talk calmly." "Talk." Ngozi hissed. "Talk about which promise?" "The farmland. The store. The harvest. The festival dance." He opened his mouth to speak, but more women arrived, brandishing identical bracelets. The elders called an emergency gathering under the Iroko tree. "Odegu," the oldest elder said, "your mouth has sown confusion across this village. Today, we will hear your defense." Odegu tried to smile. "Elders, my fathers, it's a misunderstanding. I was only being friendly. Friendly does not require 1,000 promises." Another elder snapped, and so, in front of the whole village, every woman listed the vow Odegu had made to her. The list stretched longer than the river. Odegu's legendary smile finally failed. Chapter 4, The Year of Repayment. The elders passed their judgment. "Odegu, you shall fulfill every promise you made. One by one. Publicly. With no more sweet words until your debts are settled." Thus began the hardest year of Odegu's life. He built Ada, the store he had spoken of, sweating in the sun like a man being chased by a meteor's thunder. He repaired Ngozi's leaking roof and reclaimed her farmland, hauling stones for weeks. He farmed with Ojeki during the planting season. He tutored Kizoba's restless twins who refused to nap unless he told them stories. He pounded yam until his arms trembled. He carried firewood until his back cried for mercy. He cooked stew for elderly Mama Ijoma, who constantly shouted, "Add more pepper. I don't taste anything." Yufi village watched with satisfaction. The great Chama had become the village errand man, but slowly, very slowly, Odegu changed. The work molded him, softening his pride and sharpening his humility. Chapter 5, A New Man Under the Iroko Tree. A full year passed. The elders gathered once again as Odegu wiped the last bit of sweat from building the widow's new chicken coop. "Your debts are paid," they declared. "And what have you learned?" Odegu bowed his head. "That promises are heavier than they sound. A man must speak only what his hands can carry." The women nodded. Some forgave him. Some didn't. Some laughed, but all agreed on one thing. Odegu was no longer the man of 1,000 promises. He had become the man who finally kept them.
Part 1, The Covenant of Midnight. No one in Umodo village understood how Nena, once the girl mocked for wearing torn wrappers, suddenly rose to wealth. Overnight, she moved from a mud hut to a mansion painted gold, with glass windows that shone even at night. Her compound now had 2 security men, a driver, and a black jeep that roared like a wounded bull, but only Nena knew the truth. It had begun 3 months earlier, the same night she said, "I will never die poor." Desperation had blinded her. Her sick mother needed surgery. The landlord had threatened to throw them out. The market woman whispered behind her back. In her anger and shame, she accepted the invitation of Madame Ojugo. A woman known for her flawless skin, diamond earrings, and eyes that never smiled, Ojugo took her through a forest road few dared to walk. At the center stood a shrine built of black stones. A tall figure, cloaked in shadows, stepped forward. "Welcome, daughter of dust," it said, voice like wind over graves. Nene trembled but lifted her chin. "I want wealth, enough to never beg again." The figure laughed softly. "We do not take money. We take what cannot be replaced." Nena swallowed. "What must I give?" Silence spread like mist, then the voice thundered, "Your womb." She froze. "A woman without a womb is nothing," she whispered. "A woman without choices is worse." The figure replied. The choice felt like a blade at her throat. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she nodded. "Yes. I accept." The contract was sealed in a single moment of pain, a flash of red light, and the feeling of something being ripped from her soul. When she woke, gold dust covered her palms. Her wealth journey began that very dawn, but what she didn't know was that the deal came with a shadow that followed her everywhere. Part 2: The Price of Silent Cries. Nena became the richest woman in 3 states. Her mother's surgery was successful. She donated to churches, schools, and orphanages. People bowed when she passed, yet at night, she heard it, a soft crying, like a baby's. It echoed through her mansion corridors even though she lived alone. At first, she thought it was imagination. She laughed it off. Until the crying grew louder. Sometimes it came from under her bed. Sometimes from her wardrobe. Once, it wailed right beside her ear. She told Madame Ojugo. Ojugo froze. "Oh. It has started." "What has started?" Nena demanded, but Ojugo refused to speak, only pressing a cowrie shell into her palm. "When the time comes, this will show you what you truly bought." That night, Nena locked herself in her room. She placed the cowrie shell on her table. At exactly midnight, the crying began again, louder, desperate, angry. The cowrie shell began to glow, and then she saw them, tiny handprints sliding across her mirror, small feet running across her floor, invisible children, calling her mama, crying for a woman who could never birth them. Nena screamed and covered her ears. The cry stopped at dawn, but a new terror began. She started bleeding gold dust from her palms. Her reflection no longer showed her eyes, but 2 empty sockets. Everywhere she went, dogs barked. Babies cried, and elders murmured prayers under their breath. Her driver quit. Her house help ran away. Church members stopped greeting her. One night, she heard a voice whisper behind her, "Wealth without a womb is wealth without peace." She ran outside, but the wind itself repeated the message. The shadow she had bargained with was coming to collect something else. Part 3: The Return of the Unborn. The final blow came the night of her birthday gala. The entire elite of the region attended. Musicians performed. Cameras flashed. She wore a red gown that shimmered like rubies, but during her speech, the lights suddenly went out. The massive hall fell silent. Then the crying began again, not one cry, not 2, but dozens, hundreds, the air filled with the sound of unborn voices, wailing, calling her mama. Guests panicked, scattering like chickens. Some fainted. Others fled the hall screaming. Only Nena remained frozen on stage. A cold wind swirled around her, forming a shape, tall, dark, familiar. The figure from the shrine stepped out of the shadow. "You enjoyed the wealth," it said, "but you forgot the agreement." Nena fell to her knees. "Take the money. Take the houses. Take everything. Please. Just leave me in peace." The figure shook its head. "We have no use for your riches." The air thickened. The crying became unbearable. Nena covered her ears, sobbing, "What do you want?" A sharp silence followed. Then the figure said, "Bring back what you sold." Her heart stopped. "My womb. I don't know how to." "Then your life would become the cradle where the unborn rest." Before she could beg, the ground beneath her cracked open, a swirling vortex of red mist rose, and tiny shadowy hands reached out, grabbing her legs. Her waist, pulling her slowly downward, she screamed for help, but no one came. The last thing the guests saw, from a far distance outside the hall, was Nena being swallowed by her own shadow. The crying stopped instantly, the wind went still. When the lights returned, the hall was empty, except for a single cowrie shell lying on the floor. It had cracked in half. Some say she now wanders the forest at midnight, her voice blending with the cries of the unborn she traded away. Some say her wealth still exists, but cursed, untouched, waiting for anyone foolish enough to claim it. Part 1: The Rule That Haunted the Village. In Umuife, the name Ogadima carried weight, heavy, whispered weight. A handsome man with eyes too calm for his past, he walked like someone shielded by unseen spirits, but his reputation was darker than any charm he carried. He only slept with virgins. The village knew it. The elders feared it. The young women avoided him like an omen. Mothers pulled daughters indoors whenever he approached, and the men watched him with a mix of envy and suspicion. Some said he was wicked. Others said he was cursed. Only Ogadima knew the truth. A hunger lived inside him, silent, ancient, spiritual, and only untouched purity could keep it from tearing him apart. He hated it, but he obeyed it, until the day Noza arrived. She came quietly, carrying nothing but a woven bag and a calmness that unsettled those who met her. She built a small hut by the river and began weaving mats that looked almost enchanted. Ogadima noticed her immediately. Everyone did, but when he approached her, something unexpected happened. She didn't flinch. She didn't blush, she didn't fear him. Instead, she looked him directly in the eyes and said, "You're Ogadima." The man with a shadow bigger than his body. He froze. No one had ever described him like that, and strangely, his hunger didn't rise. Part 2: The Woman Who Saw Too Much. That evening, Ogadima returned to Noza's hut, not out of desire, but out of confusion. He needed answers. To understand why she stood so fearlessly before the curse inside him, she was waiting outside, sitting by the river like someone expecting him. "You came," she said simply. He sat beside her. "What exactly do you know?" Noza didn't look at him. "I know your shadow feeds on innocence. I know you believe touching virgins strengthens you. And I know you're scared of what will happen the day it grows beyond your control." Ogadima stiffened. No one should know that. No one had ever sensed the thing called inside him like a venomous spirit. "How do you know all this?" he whispered. "Because," she said, turning her head slowly, "I see the things ordinary eyes cannot." The wind dropped, the river hushed, even the night insects fell quiet. "What are you?" he asked. "Someone your darkness cannot use," she replied. Ogadima felt the hunger inside him tremble. Not rise, tremble, like it recognized something stronger, something older. Noza stood. "You think you're haunting me," she said, "but the truth is, you have already lost." Ogadima watched her walk back to her hut, each step controlled, calm, almost supernatural, and for the first time since the curse took root, he felt something new, fear, not of the hunger. Fear of her. Part 3: The Breaking of the Hunter. For days, Ogadima couldn't sleep. His hunger, usually a steady pulse, was restless, confused, shrinking in the presence of a woman he barely knew. Every path he walked led him back to Noza's hut. Every thought returned to her calm, knowing eyes. Finally, one night, he approached her door. Before he could knock, it swung open. "You're late," she said. "I didn't say I was coming." "You didn't need to." Ogadima stepped inside. Her hut smelled faintly of herbs and river mist. Strange patterns were drawn on the walls, spirals, eyes, symbols he didn't recognize. "What are these?" he asked. "Truths your shadow doesn't want you to see." His heartbeat thundered. She motioned to the floor. "Sit." He obeyed, though he didn't know why. Then Noza knelt before him, placed her palm on his chest, and whispered, "The parasite is starving." Instantly, Ogadima felt it, the thing inside him convulsing violently, shrinking under her touch. His whole body shook. His breath broke into sharp gasps. What? What's happening? He choked. It cannot feed on me, she said, voice steady. And now that you've chosen to face me instead of flee, it has lost its hold. Pain slammed through him, pain like fire ripping through his veins. Ogodima collapsed forward, gripping the floor. His vision blurred, his pulse raced, and for one terrifying moment, he felt the creature inside him clawing for survival. Noza leaned closer. Let it die. He screamed, raw, guttural. The hunger ripped free like smoke tearing from a burning house and vanished into nothingness. Silence crashed into the room. Ogodima collapsed into Noza's arms, sweat dripping from his forehead, chest heaving. It's gone, he whispered. Yes, she said. It feared me because I am the one thing it could never consume. Why? He asked weakly. Her eyes glowed faintly in the lamplight. Because I was born to end it. He stared at her, breath trembling. You saved me. He stared at her, breath trembling. You saved me. No, she corrected gently. You chose to stop feeding the darkness. Outside, dawn was rising slowly. The village birds began their morning calls. Ogodima stepped out of Noza's hut, lighter, free, reborn. The curse that defined him was gone. But as he looked back at Noza standing in the doorway, one truth tightened in his chest. He might be free from the darkness, but the woman who saved him was far more powerful and far more mysterious than anything he had ever feared. And she had just become the most dangerous person in human life. Part 1: The sweetness that hid darkness. In the lively village of Ogbanta, beneath the massive idol tree where palm fronds swayed like gossiping elders, lived Okita, the most famous palm wine seller in the region. His wine was sweet, smooth, and addictive. Villagers praised him, travelers sought him out, and his store was always full, but behind the sweetness lay a terrible secret. Okita used forbidden charms, dark concoctions given by a banished dibia, to bind customers to his brew. Once someone tasted his enchanted wine, they returned again and again, losing strength, will, and sometimes themselves. One evening, Chinyu, a young and determined girl, arrived at the stall in search of her missing father, who had not returned for 2 days. Okita, she demanded, where is my father? He came here and never returned. Okita's smile flickered. Chinyu, he left yesterday. You worry too much. But Chinyu noticed the calabash he offered her tremble unnaturally, mist calling from it like a spirit escaping. You lie, she said. Tell me where he is. Okita's eyes hardened dangerously. Your father asked too many questions. Leave it, girl, if you value your life. Fear clawed at her, but Chinyu turned and ran straight into the forest, toward the shrine of Nwani Ola, the earth goddess. Part 2: Ashes of Truth. At the sacred shrine, the old priestess Mama Ijeoma listened to Chinyu's trembling voice. Okita has taken my father, Chinyu cried. I know it. Mama Ijeoma nodded slowly. The spirits warn me. Darkness grows beneath the idolatry. Your father's soul is trapped, but he is not lost. She handed Chinyu a small clay pot filled with sacred ash. When the moon sits above the idola, pour this ash into Okita's calabash. The spirit of truth will rise, and Okita's evil will be exposed. Night deepened. The moon rose high, round and glowing like a full calabash in the sky. Chinyu crept back to the palm wine store. Okita was asleep, snoring loudly, drunk on his own bewitched brew. She approached quietly, heart pounding. With trembling hands, she poured the ash into the largest calabash. The reaction was instant. A deep groan vibrated through the idolatry. The calabash cracked open. A chilling wail escaped, rolling through the night like 1,000 trapped voices. Okita jerked awake. Who is there? But he was already too late. The earth beneath the idola split wide open, glowing from within. Pale, weak and hollow-eyed men, Chinyu's father among them, crawled out as though waking from a nightmare. Chinyu rushed forward, catching her father as he collapsed. Part 3: Fate of the Wicked. As the freed souls gasped for breath, Okita screamed. The charms he had relied on, the spirits he had enslaved, all turned on him at once. Shadowy figures rose from the cracked earth, swirling around him like a storm. You stole from the living and imprisoned the innocent, they hissed. Okita begged, but the spirits tightened around him. In a flash of blinding light, they dragged him down into the earth he had corrupted. The soil sealed shut. The Udola tree withered instantly, dry, cracked, and dead. At dawn, the village gathered, whispering prayers of relief. The missing men recovered slowly, freed from the enchantment. The Egui summoned Chinyo and her father to the palace. "You have saved Ogbanta," the Egui said, his voice echoing through the grand hall. "Courage like yours is rare." He granted Chinyo's father new farmland and sponsored Chinyo's education in the village's sacred school. Okita's abandoned stall soon became overgrown, swallowed by weeds. No one spoke his name again, but on moonlit nights, when the wind rustled through the village, parents whispered to their children, "Beware the path of wickedness, for even sweet palm wine hides poison when brewed with an evil heart."